Make a brother. Talk about it. Yeah, the Decaf Hour. We in the building. Dude, so the conversation that we've been having about design,
Yes.
um, I definitely want to like talk about that further. And like we talked about doing the episode, I think, in my opinion, just because it's fresh on our minds, and I know the other topic that we discussed is probably going to be a little bit more complex than like that's a very special, serious episode that I want to handle with care,
Mm-hmm.
just because we both have, unique experiences with that and real experiences with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I kind of want to flesh some of that out as far as the design tonight, just based on a few things that I've seen over the last couple of days that really has inspired me and goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about with the design thing. One being Abstract, the documentary on
Yep.
Netflix. And I've watched some of that before, but I went back and watched the Tinker Hatfield
Oh yeah.
episode. And as the 2 million people watching know, Tinker Tinker designed most of your favorite Jordans. Well, all of your favorite Jordans probably,
Yeah. Yeah.
except the first one. Um, and his thought process behind the design, and even the point where he had to pitch the I think the Jordan 3 to Jordan because Jordan was going to leave the brand.
Right.
Just his detail, talking about the elephant print and the leather and how it actually feels like they're already broken in when you first put them on, stuff like that. It
Yeah.
just, man, it inspired me to where I'm like, man, I want to pay attention to detail in that way. With even what we're doing with coffee, I want to pay attention to the detail in that way, and then just build on top of that.
Right.
Um, yeah, it was to hear him talk about it was just beautiful, dude.
Yeah, man. I love that series. Abstract is so good, and there's two other ones that I love too. That I think they're worth bringing up because they used to be on Netflix, but if they're not anymore, we can find
They
them.
still are.
I'd love to rewatch them. Helvetica is a good one, and
I haven't seen that
Objectified.
one.
Objectified is the other one. They're both um, on Netflix, or at least they used to be. And let me see. I'm looking it up right now to see if they are still on there. But those are both incredible documentaries. Objectified was great because it was talking about the relationship between manufactured objects and design, meaning
Okay.
like it's kind of like we talked about the other day. Everything has a design, like a trash
Yeah.
can, Sterilite trash can has a design. Like somebody thought about the lip on the top of it and whether it was going to be kind of rectangular,
Yeah.
oblong, or whether it was going to be tall or short or narrow or, whatever. And
Yeah.
then they just manufacture those things and pump them into Walmart and Target and all that kind of stuff. And we buy it without thinking about the design. But there's other things like chairs or coffee mugs or whatever that we might have our own preference about design where we go, no, I like the mugs that are like this
You're
because
right.
it feels better when I do this, or the chair that sits like this, right?
Right.
We're already getting trolled in the comments, Trey.
We haven't even really got to the coffee talk yet, Sean. You know,
No, but we can jump around.
nah, let them wait.
As Sean can see, I'm drinking decaf water right now, so no coffee for me tonight. I did have hot chocolate last night. Let's talk about that for a second, though. Hot chocolate.
Yes, I just made my kids some, actually.
Design and hot chocolate. I'm not a hater, especially not just because I have my own preferences, but listen, hot chocolate made from a hard tablet is so much better than anything you get in a little packet.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm talking about from a
Yeah,
tablet?
yeah,
Have you ever had
yeah.
those? Okay.
I think I have. That's not what I have right now, but I have.
Yeah. Abuelita is what we have. And that's
Okay.
it's Mexican hot chocolate. Comes in a tablet, and you can buy like a little thing of those tablets, those little bricks, and
Yeah.
you just put in some milk on the stove and whisk it around like that and bring
Mm.
it to a boil. The tablet dissolves, and then you drink it, and it's amazing. So
So you
that hot
dissolve it
chocolate,
in milk,
yeah, yep,
not water.
not water, milk. And in
Okay.
our case, it's almond milk, but almond milk tablet, it's amazing.
That
So I
sounds
need to
fire.
know, I'll give Sean some time to put this in the comments. I need to know what kind of hot chocolate he prefers that's so much better than coffee.
See, Sean is front, man. He's saying hot chocolate as if he's some type of hot chocolate connoisseur, but I know he's just going to Dollar General and just getting the off-brand, the off-brand hot chocolate. He don't even really care about it like that. He's just trying to get the sugar. That's all that is. You know what I'm saying? He probably dipped anyway. But yeah, man. Back to this design conversation, though.
I just need to know how he grows a beard like that without drinking coffee. That's all I'm saying.
He said, "I'm definitely all cap." I'm gonna get you on this coffee, bro. I saw you in one of the first sip videos, looking mad shook and confused.
Oh, that one that Cadence did, right?
He didn't know what Cadence was doing. He was looking like what's going on? What is this? What is this about? You know what
That's
I'm saying?
amazing, man. That's funny,
Suleki.
dude. Yeah.
Suleki. What's popping?
So design, like you
Yeah,
said,
man.
man. How about this? How's this for a design? Can you see what I'm wearing right here?
I thought it was a beanie,
It
but
looks
it's in
like a
a
beanie.
yeah, yeah.
It's not. Look at the backside.
And then you know what's crazy?
It's a hat, but without a brim.
But you know what's crazy? When you turn to the side, I thought you had a hat on backwards.
Yep.
So I went from thinking it was a beanie to a backwards hat, and now it's just that's fire. Where'd you get that from?
So there's a company called No Brim Co.
Barely.
And they are super
Girl,
dope.
bye.
What's that?
Girl, bye.
Brimless. That's right. Got the brimless hat kicking. I wear the beanies a lot, but this one, it's got a little patch on the side. It's got the little thing in the back. So if you turn it around, you can look like you're wearing a backwards hat,
That's flames.
but from the front, it just looks like like a beanie kind of. So
That's
I'm just
hard.
saying, I'm trying to get the new wave going.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. Yeah, girl, bye. What? Dog, we went to okay. So quick story. We get back to the design. Quick story. Seleki, if she's still in here, uh, we were in New York on tour, me and Alex, and we all dipped. It was probably like 10 of us. I don't know where we like these people could have been murderers, right? And I knew Seleki from before, but it was some other people with us I don't think that I knew. But we went somewhere in New York um to watch I don't know what movie it was. What movie was that, Seleki? All I know is whatever movie it was, somebody in it was like they was about to get killed or something. It's like it was like one of them scream at the
Yeah.
screen moments. And Girl Bye just that was the first time I had heard that. And what's crazy about that is I started hearing it everywhere after that. But
Oh my
that
gosh.
was the whole thing for the next day or so was Girl Bye. She said I forgot what movie. I forgot what movie it was too. Because I was cracking up laughing at the Girl Bye joint.
That's
But
amazing,
yeah.
man. Dude, that's a tour story if I ever heard one. Going somewhere with some people you don't know, watching a movie you don't remember, and the most random thing sticking in your mind for the next few
Yes.
days of the tour, right?
Yes, bro. Uh
That's
the
awesome, man.
another we watched Noah on that tour too. Me, Alex, Reconcile, Corey Paul, and Byron, the drummer, and maybe one other person. We watched the movie Noah with Russell Crowe in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Russell Crowe was in it, right? Wasn't it Russell Crowe?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Russell Crowe and the dude from Silence of the Lambs. I always forget his name.
Lecter. Hannibal
Yeah,
Lecter.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah. But his
kidding.
real
I'm just
name.
kidding.
Yeah, yeah, That's not his name.
No.
Definitely good times, so. But yeah, we watched that joint, and I just remember the Rock people. Uh, they're supposed to be the giants that basically mated with the angels and the Nephilim or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
They and they took the writers of this movie took from like other, the story, like they took
yeah,
from
yeah,
not just the canon but other like historical mythological characters and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
these rock people in there, and they were like rocks, but they talked. And it was super crazy.
Lord of the Rings
When
meets the Bible kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so when God like cracked the sky and supposedly like restored them, and they looked up and they're like, the creator has forgiven us. And then it's like this beam of light like beams them up. No, we went to Walmart after that. We was all in the restroom, right? And then somebody just bust out and said, the creator has forgiven us. And everybody in the restroom just bust out laughing. It's like, dog. That scene
yeah.
alone makes me want to watch that movie again, no doubt.
That's amazing. I've never seen that movie, man. I never have.
It's crazy, dog. Kane sneaks on the art.
What in the world?
Yeah, Kane is hiding in one of the crevices in the art. It's crazy.
That is wild, bro. Never
Yeah,
seen that.
but
Never
design.
seen that.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, you're good.
Design, man. Ralph Giles. Are you familiar with him?
Hmm.
He's on
Uh,
Abstract as well.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
He's the card guy. He works for
Mm-hmm.
was it is whatever conglomerate that Chrysler is a part of.
Yeah.
He's in Canada, but man, seeing some of them cars, I'm just like, man, like the I can see how they look at certain people's love for certain things
Yeah.
and judge it as just the superficial thing. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot, but a lot of times, I truly believe like people are just in love with this particular design. It's the design does something to them. It's not about having like I don't want a Tesla because it's an expensive car and a status symbol. Like the design on the joint is flames,
Yeah.
and all the extras are just something that comes with it. But dog, like your joint is flames.
It's crazy how that kind of stuff, like, yeah, when you see a classic car, it's more appealing to some people, or when you see a new one that's really, more aerodynamic and rounded looking, it's more appealing. But all of it is because things are done by design. And, you and I have talked about all kind of stuff as far as design, but probably never where a broad scope of people would identify with it, because most people think design, they think of graphic design.
Yeah,
But dude, I think about like, let me see if she's still in here. I think my sister's in here, I think still, and she does hair, like, and I have talked to you about me wanting to kind of maybe go to barber school and do hair before, and I'm like, oh, the DR flag, yep. That's right. And but yeah, dude, like anything can be designed or be done by design. Like it's intentional and it's lines and it's it's beauty and it's all these layers to it. And yeah, and the craziest thing to me is about design, like, oh look, my sister said do it. Sue Lakey said do it too.
yeah.
Cosmetology school. Yeah.
Like, yeah, she's doing hair
That's what I'm
too.
saying. Like to me, it's one of those things where I think I am at least a patient person. So I'm thinking about being patient, being meticulous, and thinking about sitting there and seeing what's not there, like you would a sculpture, and doing that with somebody's hair, and
Yeah,
getting the benefit of having a conversation with them, or at least listening to them while
yeah,
they kind of talk and think and process while you're doing that. And, I just think about how all of that points back to the fact that God designed everything with a purpose, like literally everything.
yeah.
So like the coffee that we talk about a lot on here and the coffee that we drink
Yeah,
literally grows in the ground. You know what I mean? And God put it
yeah.
there. And hair, he put it on our heads and all that kind of stuff. Who we
Word.
got?
And
We
you
got some
already,
people popping in here.
yeah, yeah. My guy Adam is in the building. A
That's
Flow
what's
is
up.
in the
Yeah.
building.
Hey,
My
Flo.
guy, A Flow, what up?
Yeah. Did
Now
you
you
say I
already
jumped
got that.
ahead?
Nah, you already got the you already got the name for the barbershop slash coffee spot anyway.
Yeah, there's got to be a big space in the middle, though. We don't want no hair getting in the coffee. But if you put a
Right.
barbershop on this side, a lot of common space in the middle, and a coffee shop on the other side, you just call that joint cortado because cortado means cut in Spanish.
Right.
And so we
Yep.
got a barbershop and a coffee shop in one cortado. We're going
And
to
you
do
can do a little something else at the back. Cut.
it. We could. Oh, shoot.
Nah. But yeah, man, I think that what we are doing with coffee has like she said, I'm stealing that name.
We're going to franchise them. We're going to franchise them.
Yeah. I think that what we're doing with coffee, man, I was roasting the other night and I was like again, we talked about this when I said like you get comfortable with something and you just freaking it, like you tweaking
Yeah.
everything down and you get but I started thinking about design again and just even the color of the bean and even the pea berry the structure of the bean is different than other beans and that's kind of something that I want to start leaning into um when we tell more of the story of the different coffees that we're roasting
Yeah.
like and there's some companies that already do this Sweet Maria's like being one of them where they will it's kind of where I learned it from where they'll show the different profiles and then they'll also show
Yeah.
they'll burn a bean just to show you what it looks like under and show an underdeveloped bean they'll show
Hmm.
the different structures and it's just a beautiful thing even to see the coffee bean in itself and the design of the coffee bean and just to think that like God like the whole discovery of coffee in general
I
like
was
the
going to say the
story of that
Kaldi
is like
story in Ethiopia. Yeah.
yeah it's like dog
Yeah.
like that it's mind blowing and then the fact that
Hmm.
we have what we have now it tastes the way that it tastes and then there's multiple kinds of this thing out
Hmm.
there. Steven from the Coffee Enthusiast, he was talking about, you know, we have this Arabica bean, and then what's the other one like that Starbucks sells? I'm
Yeah, I
blanking.
can't
The
remember the name. Is it? Oh,
barista,
Robusta.
Robusta,
Robusta.
Robusta. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah, yeah.
Robusta bean. But then he lists off like two. You have geisha, but he
Hmm.
named off a couple more, and he talked about like, and it's so crazy because it made me think about how we like wine. Yes, like
Hmm.
wine.
Yeah.
Um, it made me think about how our brains we set up these binary things, and so there can only be Arabica and Robusta, right? I
Hmm.
always mispronounce it. Like there can only be these two major things, right? When there's like a huge list of different types,
Yeah.
so we're losing a lot of the beauty, and you see that in life with everything that we hold up these two main things and hold them as you know the for or against, and we miss out on the beauty of
Yep.
this complex conversation. You know what I mean?
We do that with
Um,
everything too.
with everything, bro.
Politics, with
Yep.
religion, with race, even. I think
Hmm.
about how much the race conversation has destroyed so much beauty, at least, and not that we shouldn't have a conversation. Obviously, there's issues we have to talk about, but what I'm saying is the making such a big deal out of one or two of the ethnicities or people groups, and not talking about how complicated it is for people who are Black and Latino, and people who are like myself, Latino and white, and all this kind of stuff, and where how culture is different from race, and how, it just, you make it so binary that it starts to actually alienate people and diminish things to where then people have to make a choice. So I'm Black or I'm white or I'm Latino or I'm this,
Right.
if they're
Right.
mixed race or if they have a complicated, or not complicated, but complex and beautiful culture.
Yeah.
And it's all, the thing is, it was all by design, at least by God's design, and we've taken it and just kind of messed it around and made it like weird. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We've made it to where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, are you this or that? And it's like, no, 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 I'm not this or that. I'm like all this stuff over here. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Exactly.
yeah, dude, it's crazy. Even what you said about coffee, I was just thinking about how, if you want to go back to the original, how we started the design conversation, think about the fact that if you watch a documentary about Folgers or one of those kind of big conglomerate companies, they
Mm-hmm.
have people whose job is to profile that coffee. They have people whose
Right.
job they taste it, they cup the coffee and all that. And I'm going like, why though? I've tasted Folgers. Seems like nobody's doing that. It seems like
Right.
they just
Right.
roast some coffee,
Right.
grind it up, throw it in a red tub, and sell it for $5 or $6. But the reality is somebody is doing that intentionally and designing, and there's layers to this whole thing that has to do with socioeconomic stuff. It has to do with capitalism. It has to do, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that doesn't diminish the design, but if we would let things be complex like that and not be so binary, black and white about those kind of things, then it wouldn't just be Folgers is bad and Starbucks is good. Oh, well, now it tasted better. Starbucks is bad and third wave specialty coffee is good. And it's like, I mean, all of it's kind of good. All of it has a purpose. All of it has a point and a
Yeah.
place in our society and culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but that's what design is intended to do, I think. It's supposed to give us, we're allowed to have rather like opinions and preferences about design.
Yeah.
We built a fireplace in our house over the
Yeah.
past month or whatever, and we could have done one with brick, or we could have done it with this. We could have put the mantle this high or that high. We could have put the fireplace on the ground, or a mounted one in the middle, an electric one, or and all those are design preferences and choices that we get to make. You know what I mean? And it's intentional and allowed and actually good that we get to do that.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it is the choice too. It's
Right.
like, um, and I think about the freedom to be able to build upon that choice, to change that choice, to do away with this, to add this. Um, we it's almost like we put so many constraints on ourselves.
Yep.
A lot of successful designers and artists always speak to the fact that they're creating as if they're 6 years old, like they're just
Hmm.
this 6 year old kid again when they're creating, because when we're young there are no boundaries. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like my son will draw a picture and an hour later he's drawing over that picture and making something else or adding to it, and it's like
Yeah.
he's not worried about you know it's like, as a matter of fact, he wanted me to hang this on the wall.
Oh, nice.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's not worried
Yeah.
about anything, but he was
Right. It's
proud of this
just,
joint.
yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like this is there are no boundaries, and I know that you can make the argument, oh, he's not skilled yet, but bro, like we
It's
look at
funny
this
how
man.
we teach people to color in the lines like that, though. And then when they get older and they do something like that minus the spaceship shape, and we go, that's abstract art. Let's sell it for $1 million. And it's like,
Yes,
yeah, but you taught that
yes,
kid not to do that when he was young. You said you need
yes,
to color in the lines and do it this way. And it's like,
yes,
I mean, there's layers to it. Sure, we instruct people, we teach best practices and methods for reasons, right? But there's other times you got to let stuff fly, man, on purpose.
yeah. And I think as artists, we, obviously, well, not even. I was gonna put a constraint on it even then, because you try to make an excuse or try to clean it up, but I mean it is what it is. It's like
Yeah.
we can just splatter the color over the canvas, and because I heard two good conversations I heard today. One was that we already mentioned the Tinker Hatfield joint, and he talked about his not introduction to design, but how he starts the process. And he showed some of his work from when he was younger, where he was just like drawing planets and
Hmm.
coloring planets, and then he started adding faces to the planets, and then he started, and then he said, I was just expressing how I felt in this
Hmm.
picture. And so the design, we see it, and it's something tangible that you can hold up, and I can show you, and you can actually see it. But
Right.
all it is it's an emotion, it's a feeling. And so
Hmm.
that was one thing. And then Tyler, the creator, was on Rick Rubin and Malcolm Gladwell have a show called
Yep.
Broken Record.
That's such a
And
dope. Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
bro. And he was talking about, Rick Rubin said, so how do you start first with the song? Like what catches you first? And he said, um, I start with the chords.
Oh yeah, I remember. I listened to this one. Yeah.
Yes, he said the chords first, then he said the melody grabs me, and then he said like the cadence or the flow of what's going on. He said the words are like last,
Yep.
and he said there
Wasn't he
was
saying
a
there's
song by I
sometimes?
think Amy Winehouse that he said I've been listening to that song for so long, but I just learned what the lyrics actually is saying like a few months ago. And so it's like, when you think about that, he's just basing what he likes off of the feeling.
Right.
The words are just, and it's one of the reasons why he raps the way that he does, because you can't honestly believe that he believes some of the things that he raps about, or he's like being literal when he's
Right.
saying some of this stuff. He's just throwing paint everywhere and just
Yeah.
grabbing stuff out the sky and saying the most outlandish stuff. But to him, if you listen to his actual like the music, he's a serious musician.
Yeah. That's his main thing he's doing.
That's his main thing. Like,
That's Justin Vernon from Bon Iver is kind of like that too,
yes,
where
yes.
he like his songs do tell a story or convey a message, but it takes him a long time to decide on what that is
Hmm.
because he's working on the music and the melody, and then he's got some lyric ideas, and those ideas come from emotions and thoughts that you're sharing. But then he has to make it, fit the whole thing, the whole emotion and stuff. So
Yeah.
we got a long comment here that I want to read because it sparked some conversation too. I'm painting all my life. I made a fashion brand, fashion shows, different countries, income on my art because nobody cares about art. See, that's interesting because this is what I was going to say, Dre, earlier when you said that about expression. One thing that I'm reading this book called Adorning the Dark by Andrew Peterson, and
Uh-huh.
it's about how art and beauty and all that adds value to the world that we live in right now, and that God intended it to be that way, but people shy away from it because we're more kind of utility based, right? Like, again, I
Hmm.
pointed out earlier, design. We need a design for a trash can. We need a design for chairs so we can sit down. But yeah, clothes, paintings, people go, well, we don't like need that though.
Hmm.
This book would contend that yes, we do. Just like
Hmm.
we need music and we need food to be more than just like a protein bar, a capsule that we eat. We need it to like taste good sometimes and be different
Right.
textures and cook differently. And one of the things that he said though, because he's primarily a writer, is that there are times where he writes for emotion's sake and expression's sake, but a lot of times he burns those pages or he types it, he writes and then deletes the file because he just needed to get it out, and that people don't ever see those things. And in fact, one time his parents saw something he wrote in a journal when he was in high school, I think it was, and he was like so embarrassed by that. He was so embarrassed that they read it
Wow.
because he like didn't want them to see that. Not because there was anything bad. He was just describing a sunset.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is he ended up sharing the story in a book, and then saying, that he has to write two different ways on purpose. Like he writes to express himself and writes to connect with God and to emote and to worship and all this kind of stuff. He writes, but then he also writes fiction novels and books like the one I'm reading by him, where it's more about Christian living or whatever. And he writes those on purpose for a purpose for people
Yeah.
to be encouraged or to lose themselves in a story or to learn some principles. And I just think that, and this leads into Dre, something you and I have talked about offline, which is I think sometimes we have to be clear internally with our intentions or be clear externally by sharing what those are.
Yeah.
Because if we just create music that's cool in our mind and it's expresses something, and then we get mad because people don't get it and they don't want to buy it or download it because they don't understand it. We can't really be too mad about that because we were just creating it with the intent or the purpose of expressing ourselves. Like that's art, that's expression. No
Yeah.
one has to consume it or buy it or anything though. However, we can take the principles we learn from expressing ourselves and creating and say, now I'm going to take this and make it into a consumable, palatable thing that people might enjoy because they already enjoy this other stuff that's kind of similar, and take this and make a good song out of it or write a good story out of it or cook a good meal out of it. And now you've got these crazy ingredients or these crazy beats that you've taken and made it into something that people might actually enjoy,
Right.
right? Rather
Right.
than you just expressing yourself. And I
Yeah.
think artists have done themselves a disservice by getting too personal in their art in a way that says, I put my heart and soul in this and no one cares, rather than saying, let me put my heart and soul into something and express and care, but then let me give this to people to actually serve them and not to be self-serving
Mm.
and do this so they can enjoy whatever it is.
Mm.
But that's crazy though. That's a totally different realm, I think, than a lot of people think in because of our binary type of thinking, you know?
Yeah, man. I've been New Self has some jokes about the salmon, man.
Yes, a meal like salmon. Yes.
Salmon is very good. Salmon is lovely, exquisite. Um, so I've been listening to one of my favorite old white guys. Uh, he's like my old white grandpa. He's a theologian. Richard Rohr,
Oh yeah, yeah.
he's a Franciscan
Yep.
priest that is probably more in the middle than you know most Franciscan priests would be when it comes to Catholicism and all that kind of stuff. He's just a thinker, and so
Right.
one of the things he I think it might have been his last book where he talked about the different seasons or um, just time frames of life, periods of life, and you're talking about artists creating something to just not being self-serving, but to serve other people, and based on the periods of life that he broke down, like as a human being, it takes a lot to get to that point. Some people, and he breaks it down by age, and he says he's not tied to those, obviously, and he's not he's not the he's an expert on this, but he's not the one that actually like makes the rules for this. But he has a pretty good gauge on it, and he says he's not tied to these, but there's a certain age range where this usually happens. And some of the process is sped up based on our experience, which a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
times it comes from trauma and it
Yep.
comes from, extreme circumstance to where you get to that point faster just because you've lived a little bit more than other people.
Yep.
You haven't been sheltered or whatever. And so that's like I look at certain artists and you can kind of see that they've gotten to that point to
Right.
where it's not about them, and um it's a beautiful thing. It's a thing that what up, Mitch? It's something that I long for because we're taught, especially in the Western world, bro, like
Right.
we're actually taught to for this to be a consumer. Mitch,
Mitch. Oh man.
we're actually taught, you know, to take our whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
and sell it to somebody for profit, for us, for gain for us.
Right.
Um, and the old, I think I'm entering into, to be completely honest, I'm still in the period of life to where it's not necessarily self-serving, because I do have a family, I have wife and I have kids, and I think about other people. But to be completely honest, I'm not all the way to that period that he's speaking of, that I know
Hmm.
that I desire to get to, and I've seen other artists get to that point. Um, there's still part of me that, is in the, somebody else broke it down where they said you are, you learn, you earn, you give.
Hmm.
Like this was an old old black pastor that he broke it down: learn, earn, give, the three, phases of life, three seasons of life. You When you're young, you're bumping your head all the time. You're learning by
Hmm.
either messing up, or you're gaining wisdom from a mentor, whatever the case may be. You're soaking up this wisdom and you're learning. When you get to a certain point, you have a family, you're earning, right? And you're trying to take care of this family, and actually some good self-awareness. You're actually trying to take care of your family, and you have this tribe that you're building, and you're stacking and building stuff, and but then you get to this point where it's like you're just giving of yourself,
Hmm.
um, not expecting anything in return. One artist that I can point out that I've seen this from is Most Def, or
Mm.
Yasin Bey. And he's probably, outside of music, just as an artist, he's one of my favorites, because
See you,
even,
Mitch.
see Mitch, through his interviews and through his art, like a lot of artists, their interviews don't match their art. They say one thing in their interviews, and you hear them wanting to get to that place, but they're
Hmm.
still on this hamster wheel, caught in this rat race, right?
Right.
But you can hear it in there when they talk, that they want to get to this place. I think it's a human thing where we want to get to that place.
Right.
And like I said, I think he's one of the artists that I can point to where I listen to the interview and then I hear the art and I see how he moves and I'm like, he's got it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
he's
It's the reason why you see so many young bucks, and it has nothing to do with age necessarily, but I'm just saying you see a lot of
right,
young cats who are like, yeah, I'm going to teach people how to do and I'm going to give. And you're like, but I mean, do you know how to do X, Y, and Z yet?
right,
You know what I mean?
right.
And it's not about like, it's not about having what other people don't have and all this kind of stuff. But I think even in that cycle, the learn, what is it? Learn, earn, and give.
Hmm.
I think that when you get to a certain point, though, I think you can. I have no idea what that says. When you get to a certain point, though, I think you start the cycle again while retaining the other things you had, right? Like, so if you learn and then you start earning, man, the way you earn more and more in most jobs or most vocations or skills is by learning more as you go.
Hmm.
And once you get to that giving stage in life, you can add additional skills and hobbies into your skill set and earn more through your heart and attitude being turned toward that giving thing. Because
Hmm.
another artist that comes to mind that I think he just moves differently than people think is Pharrell.
Hmm.
He's one of those people that, yeah, he seems like he's still doing stuff. Like is putting out shoes and clothes and music. But the thing is, he's doing that by giving of himself and his skill
Hmm.
set and his creativity, and he's earning while he's doing it, and he's learning new stuff he's never done before.
Yeah,
And I love that. I
yeah,
love that. But it took him going through that initial cycle of those three things
yeah,
for him to get to a point where now he can keep growing as a person, as an artist.
yeah,
And I think we've all got to do that.
yeah. Rick
What's
Rubin
up?
as well. He's
Yeah. Oh,
somebody
yeah.
that
Of
put a
course.
lot.
Of course.
Humble B,
There's
so too. This is decaf. It's the decaf hour. That's why we paying that joint. It's the decaf hour, straight decaf.
Yep.
Um, yeah, man. It's that's a point that I desire to, and again, that's where my heart is pointed. Um, but my reality doesn't match where my heart is pointed currently. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And we can lie to ourselves and say that, because there's a ton of artists that lie to themselves all day and say, oh, it's not about the money. I don't need the money. I'm just an artist. Blah 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 blah. But the bottom line is, I mean, we it's a natural thing that we have to have in order to live. And not
Mm,
only that, in order to make change in this natural world,
hmm.
you know, you have to have money. That's just the way that it is.
Right.
Um, and that's not, when I say that, that's not, talking about being billionaires more so than it's talking about um, like impact
Right.
on something. You know what I mean? Um,
Absolutely.
there's a few people that come to mind that, like, Pharrell. Like, Pharrell's one of those people that I feel like he understands that, um, and you can tell in the way that he moves. Rick Rubin, like I just mentioned him, the same way. Like, all of these people that he has on, that he talks to, if you listen to the questions that he lays out for them, um, money never comes up, for one.
Right.
It's always the one that I think about the most is the Andre 3000. He's
Oh,
another
I
one.
was about to bring him up. I was about to bring him up though with a caveat and kind of maybe spark a potentially what do you call it? Opinionated conversation here about
Hmm.
Andre. I
Okay.
think he's one of those people that went through the cycle and then stopped, or at least stopped doing the giving part and the sharing part publicly. And I don't mean to say there's anything wrong with that, but here's what I mean. If you are super talented
Hmm.
and people recognize your talent and you clearly have a gift and you have the ability to go on this side of the spectrum musically or artistically and then be over here or just kind of ride in the middle and make some money or do whatever with some other artists, he's one of those people that has all that and then says, but I don't want to do any of it though.
Yeah.
Like, I already did whatever, now I'm gonna go do this thing and y'all just not gonna hear from me. I'm not gonna be a part of it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think there's things you have to consider when somebody does that. I feel like I do that in different seasons of my life
I
where
do.
mental health,
Yeah.
trauma, things in life, mix that with social media, mix that with expectations from people and all that kind of stuff. And then I go, whoa, and I step out of it and go, they don't need to hear from me. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I just dip out, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I want to give him, props to him on that I understand that kind of stuff happens. But I think it's intriguing because you look at somebody like a Pharrell or whatever, and you see the trajectory, and that's Andre 3000's trajectory. And then all of a sudden, like, where'd he go? And then, oh, he's playing a flute over here doing this, and it's cool and it's artsy, but you're like, is that serving anyone or giving or helping or encouraging or just expressing even to an audience or a platform that you have or other artists? Or is it just kind of like, is it self-serving? Is it him just being mentally healthy and whole as a person? I don't know. So I'm asking your opinion, Dre.
No, I think that part of the interview, he talks about his mental health, and that
Yep.
fear, I think, cripples him at
Right.
times. And so I don't think that what he's doing is to a certain extent is healthy. And I think that he mentioned that, like I said on the interview, is that um, he struggles with that. You could
Right.
tell he talks about being in therapy, and um, so I do think that he hindered. And that's not to say that behind the scenes he isn't talking to artists. And like, I've heard plenty of stories from people in Atlanta that they'll just run into Andre 3000 on the street or in a hole in the wall, food spot or whatever, and he just posted up
Right.
like he's. And so that's not to say that he doesn't help behind the scenes, but I do
Right.
think that, based on what he said, that's something that cripples him. The
Yeah.
fear, the anxiety that he has around being this famous person, he allows that to cripple him. And what you're saying is correct. Like, I feel like if he was using that artistic ability to serve others and to put that expression out into the world,
Right.
it would heal and help uh so many, because music is powerful, bro. Like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just like we're saying, even some of the songs that he has, there's barely even any words to it. It's just music to it. And so,
And mentoring is powerful, and
yes,
relationships are powerful. And
yes, yes,
I just think about where would hip hop be in general today had, Outkast or him, had they stayed like in the same trajectory they were in, but, obviously progressed with their career and their life
right.
stages, mentored other artists, started label sign artists, all those kind of things. Imagine how that would look different as far as the new wave of artists or the several waves we've had, obviously, since then.
Yeah, especially with
And
the
yeah, yeah,
wisdom.
that's what I mean. Wisdom, life experience, musicianship, all that kind of stuff just put in there. And I just think about how it would be. So this is a little bit of a side note, but speaking of Pharrell, have you seen Voices of Fire on Netflix? Have you watched that?
I haven't yet. You said you had a
It's a
friend that was on there, right? Did you say that? No, no, no. Yeah,
no.
Sean said his cousin is on the show.
He's getting a hard time. Yeah, man, it's super dope. I've only seen a couple episodes, but that's one of those things too where you're just like, man, that's another dimension where some people could see that as, oh, Pharrell made a career move, or now he's getting into this and it's more income. And of course it is, but it's also like, if you look at what the premise of the show is and look at what it's doing and who it's involving and what its intended purpose is, you kind of see things like that and go, that's continuing to learn, earn, and give while you're doing your normal stuff. You still get to be Pharrell making soundtracks for big movies and putting out hip hop hits and having a Netflix show doing that and
Yeah,
Adidas sneakers, and I mean that's a nice situation going on.
yeah, yeah.
Ryan, what's up?
Yeah. What up, Ryan?
I talked to him on the phone today.
Oh,
It was
word.
nice to chop it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference between a Pharrell and a Andre 3000. Like
Hmm.
that's the separation, and it's something that I think about often when, you know, I think about all the times that I've talked about not continuing to create. It's usually around the time where mentally uh I'm struggling mentally, or
Hmm.
you know, allowing fear to cripple me. And one of the
Hmm.
things that I always go back to, or like for instance, um, I can't remember. It might have been, I might have been on Collision or right before I signed the Collision, and I think it was right before I signed the Collision, and I was just struggling, man, like um, just with everything, because I felt like I was, you know, doing some quality work, and people were recognizing that, but um, it's just, it hurts when you're putting this creative thing out into the world, and um, people are aware of it and they're experiencing this joy from it, but you're not getting any joy from it. Like
Right.
it's a
Right.
weird thing for artists, because people see you and they're like, "Oh man, you changed my life," and you're like, "Man, like it's not changing my life. Like it's not." And not even,
Yeah.
not necessarily from a monetary standpoint or anything. It's just like
Yeah.
you want to feel like you're in your purpose. And so this one particular day, I was like struggling bad, and I was just complaining, and my wife and I were in Walmart, like, and and she said she used to do this a lot, where she just stops saying anything, and just she'll start praying in her head, and then she'll just turn me over to God, right? And just,
Hmm.
you know, you just, God, you deal with it. So we're walking through Walmart, and I'm like being a jerk, and
Venting.
yeah, venting, work clothes on, like I'm working at this spot that my boss is a jerk, and somebody's like, Trey, is that Trey Murray in Walmart? And I'm like, yeah, man. Man, man, I've been listening to you for years, dog. Oh man, here's my hold on. My wife is over here. She listens to you. He brings his wife over. He wants to take a picture in Walmart. You know, I changed his life. Blah blah blah. And my wife is just standing there, just looking at me like, uh huh. And it was this point where it was like God was showing me that I had this conversation with Bart earlier too, because Bart sent me a voice message, not a voicemail, but just a voice
Yeah,
message.
yeah,
Him and his boy were in the car playing a song of mine from 2004 off this Beat Mart recordings thing, and they were rapping the lyrics. And he said, bro, like it just hit me. He said, I used to be this little nerdy kid in school walking with my headphones on, listening. He said, all I listened to was Christian rap. And he said, I just realized that that was you. Like I knew these verses frontwards and backwards because my flow was different back then. He said, I just put two and two together. And he was like hype about it. And it just took me back. And I said, bro, like you don't understand. He sent it to me yesterday. I was like, you don't understand how mentally uh, I was going through it yesterday, and you sent me this, and it was just another one of those things where it was
yeah,
like what we're and he said this that whole conversation of if a tree falls in a forest, like
yeah.
does it make a sound type of deal, like people are hearing that. You might not be able to see it because you're the one creating it, but you just got to keep creating because and you have to be in that place where you see the reality, um, even
Yeah,
though
man.
you can't it's not it might not be tangible to you, but you have to get to that place. That's why we have to step off social media. We got to
Right,
get in a quiet space and understand that we have a purpose bigger than a chart,
right.
streams. It's like this vibration that we're putting out there, you know what I'm saying?
Speaking of that, we got a new listener, a new person tuning in. They got their 16-ounce coffee black for tonight. Drinking that.
Dope.
Yeah, man. Who else we got in here? Dynamic duo.
Kellis, what up, man?
Oh yeah, Kellis. P Dog, what's up?
Yeah.
The real
God's
P
Music
Dog, not the
Radio.
one from the BTS army. The real P Dog. Oh man. Yeah, bro. It's crazy how that kind of stuff happens when you least expect it.
Yep.
Where you see the point where you were just, giving of yourself either for expression's sake or for like if somebody hits me up and says I need a beat that's like this or to go with this vibe or whatever, you could do that and make the money. But sometimes it surprises you the impact that that song has, or
Hmm.
you do something just for expression and it resonates with people, or it doesn't, and you have to reconcile in your mind the fact that the purpose of it and the intention of it is what matters. I
Right.
create a lot. Dre, you know this about me. People listening and watching might not know this. I create a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff people don't hear because it's
Yeah.
kind of like I just did it to express myself. Now it might morph into a beat or a song or something, but a lot of times it's just me doing what I'm doing. It has nothing to do with making something for anyone to hear or making money. But that's also because I've been afforded that with jobs and careers that I've had. And so it really, yeah, it just depends on kind of having those intentions set right in your mind or
Hmm.
expressing them to other people so they get what you're doing.
Yeah.
Hey, I got 39 seconds left on my Instagram live. It's about to stop. I have no idea
Yeah.
why.
Well,
So we're gonna
it's
hop
kind
over
of.
on Dre Murray's, or are we done for
I
tonight?
think I think we might be done for the night, man. My daughter keeps telling me on Wednesday she has a hard time falling asleep because I'll be a little bit loud. So yeah,
That's
man.
what's up, man. Good conversation,
Yeah.
and it'll be continued on the podcast. So you guys will get to hear it Monday.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, bro.
Appreciate y'all.
Yep.
Yep.
Appreciate you, brother. Peace.